for a next project, you'll be doing more of a traditional comic book again, or would you use sort of the mixed medium of comics and short story?
So I'm working on a book right now, and it is more towards the traditional comic book side, but it is experimental in a different way. Pretty much, I experiment with a lot with paneling in the book I'm working on right now, but I actually very much enjoy this sort of I guess half prose, half comic mix. I I feel like it's a good way to get. I don't know. I feel like it's nice having more adult picture books on the market. Like adults enjoy pictures too, so why aren't there more out there? And I know there's a couple publishers out there. Like there's a new one that just launched called Dauntless Stories, and they're doing a lot of one shots and a lot of prose slash comics mixed books, and I think that's really cool. And I would love to see a bigger boom in that market. So yeah, it's something that I would love to work on more in the future, like the mix of prose and the mix of writing, just so I also don't lose the skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I actually on your Twitter account, I saw you posted about them. I
Yeah.
checked them out, and yeah, it's good to see that they're looking for folks to basically join in and create with. I'm
hmm
assuming you may or may not have said, "Hey, here's some of my work."
Uh, yes, I may or may not have something cool coming out with them. Hopefully next year if things go well.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I'm working on something with a good friend of mine. Their name is Brent Fisher, really awesome comic book writer, and we've been buds for a while, so it's really good to work with them again. We collabed on a short comic for another anthology called Big Hype, so it's really nice to work with them again.
Perfect. Actually, yeah, I did want to touch on that. So before the two books that you've personally authored and drawn, you did work on a series of anthologies. I believe you're published in a few different spots, correct?
Yeah. So Big Hype, that was one of them. I think the Kickstarter for that recently wrapped up. Uh, I was also in a couple anthologies published with the Boston Comics Roundtable with Jason Doring. One of them was a Starbound anthology, which is like a space sci-fi anthology, and another one was called Boston Powers. It's about like kids superheroes. Yeah, and there's actually two on Kickstarter right now that
Oh,
I'm in. Yeah, one is Yule. It's like a holiday horror anthology that's really cool, and it deals with like uh, pretty much Xmas folklore and cryptids. And I have a story in that with Frankie White and DC Hopkins. Very sad, very creepy. I hope people like it. Yeah. And one literally just launched this morning. It's called Off into the Sunset. It's a Western anthology, and there's a lot of really cool people in it. I'm collabing with Matt McGrath, who is also Canadian, which is really cool. Yeah, and we're gonna hopefully do a story about Toronto's first hanging, which is nice and local and
hanging,
Western.
as in like noose hanging.
Yeah, there's
Whoa,
actually a very fun story about that that I didn't know about until he approached me with the script. So we're really excited to get to draw it.
that's really cool. Oh, so actually, I was gonna ask. So, on that specific story, you're being the illustrator artist, correct?
Yes,
Um,
most of them. Yeah,
and okay, so are you primarily then working as an artist for when you're working for other people or with other people?
mostly. Yeah, I haven't really put a lot of my uh, writing out there as much as my art has, especially in recent years. I would like to do more writing. It's just a matter of, I guess, time. Like art's pretty much consumed my life for the last few years. So
Yep.
yeah.
And I assume, like many other people, comics and art is a part-time job to a full-time student career or work or whatever it is else that you do, correct?
Yeah, so I'm very much part-time freelance, part-time day job life.
Yep, day job life. That's a good term for it.
Yeah, but it
um,
gets the bills paid, so
oh,
can't complain.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Keeps you comfortable, lets you do what you want to do. Um,
exactly.
yeah. So overall, then in the next coming year, with any luck, you'll actually find yourself on a number of projects that have been published through or will be published through Kickstarter, and things like that, which is great.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm really hoping they all get funded. I'm trying to push for them to get funded, but if everything goes well, hopefully you'll be seeing my work in more anthologies and other cool things. We'll see what comes.
Perfect. Are you currently? I mean, you're putting a lot of work in, obviously, with collabing with other people. Are you currently working on a next Fell Hound exclusive comic?
I am actually.
Oh,
I'm working on a sort of coming of age experimental graphic novella right now. It's looking to be about 60 pages. I haven't released the name yet, so we'll just call it Project AWLY or Project Ollie. It's
okay.
actually it takes place in the Rowverse, but 10 years before, and it actually focuses on not Commander Rao herself, but the character of Julie.
Mm.
And it's pretty much her story from her perspective, and we get to see more of what Julie and Casey's relationship was like 10 years ago, and pretty much explore what happened to Julie because we never really found out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then I very much look forward to that.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Yeah.
will you be? I'm assuming you're going to end up doing another print run.
Of Commander
Um,
or
of AW Ollie AWLY. When it?
yes, yes, yes. So I'm hoping to kickstart that as well. It's just I'm kind of doing that, and I have a couple more side projects that I'm doing in between, so it's taking a little bit longer, but hopefully it will be out. I was thinking of kickstarting end of this year, but I feel like Christmas is a bad time, so it might get pushed early next year, but we will see.
Well, I mean, heck, you're keeping yourself plenty busy, aren't you?
Yeah, trying to balance it out.
Perfect. That's awesome. Now I just from the images and the paneling that you've done in the book, I believe you're doing digital, right?
Yes, I do
Okay.
everything on my iPad.
Okay, perfect. iPad. Do you, I'm assuming you have the pencil.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And are you using like Photoshop, Illustrator, or some other program?
I do everything on Clip Studio.
Oh, okay.
I yeah, it's like when I first got my first tablet, the program came free with the tablet, so I've just started using it since. But it's nice. It's like made for comics, so there's a lot of features that are very friendly to me, and a lot of good shortcuts to have when making comics. I have tried to get into Photoshop, and I just couldn't do it. It confuses me so much for some reason.
I will say that as someone who uses it for editing and making thumbnails and stuff like that, it is a very complex piece of software.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I watch certain artists, Stefan Sejic, I believe, uses Photoshop,
Hmm.
and they've got custom brushes and all this stuff, and I'm just like, how do you do this? Like,
Yeah.
no, it's a lot.
Like I tried to resize an image, and even that I couldn't figure out what button to press, and I had to like ask for help.
Yep.
I think if you know how to use it, it's very powerful. It's just like the learning curve is just so much.
Yes, no, I agree. I find Adobe's suite of products is just like learning curve is just
Oh my God,
it
yeah.
just feels unfair. um,
Right.
Perfect. And when you, I believe you have it for sale like on your website. I saw, you've got prints and things like that. Um,
I have one print, and that's because one person asked me, so I put it up for prints. I haven't put up many others yet.
Yet I
Yeah.
like it. Perfect. Well, I mean, when it comes to your workout, because we kind of ripped through it a bunch of stuff really quick. So your two comics, Do You Believe in an Afterlife and Commander Rao, currently four digital. People can go right now, get them on Gumroad. And then your upcoming work. Could you go through sort of that list for me again so we can get them out?
Yes. Okay. So on Gumroad, there's Do You Believe in an Afterlife and Commander Rao? Yes. And then the other work, you mean like anthologies or?
The other stuff of yours that will be coming out in the coming year or two.
Oh, okay. So pretty much I'm just working on one book right now. That's Project AWLY. It's not out yet, but it will be out on Kickstarter hopefully end of the year, early next year. And then it's just all the anthology stuff. I've got two on Kickstarter right now, Yule and Off into the Sunset. Um, research for them on Kickstarter. Hopefully you'll find them and hopefully you'll back them and get them funded because I would really like to tell these stories.
Get it done, people.
Yes. And
Uh,
then, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, if there's more, go for it.
I'm trying to think. I know Project Big Hype was recently released. I don't know if it's out for sale yet. I think they're just trying to get the backers all their books for now. And I believe the books I did with Boston Comics Roundtable, they are available in some local comic book shops in the Boston area.
Oh,
But
cool.
yeah, because that was really much handled by my friend Jason Doring, who was part of that collective.
Hmm.
So he's pretty much managed like helping or like just contributing to, I guess, how they run. Yeah.
Cool. That's really cool. Actually, I did want to ask. So you've got friends out Boston way over the border. You've mentioned some of the Canadian creators. Um, as a relatively new comic creator in the last couple of years, and relatively young, like younger
Yeah.
than myself, for instance,
Yeah.
how have you found sort of your comics community? Because everyone does it a little differently. Um, how did you sort of step into your community, and where do you connect with people?
Yeah, so I feel like I kind of stepped into comics at like right when the pandemic happened. So I never really got a chance to meet a lot of people in person. Most of my networking has been done on Twitter. And so far, the Twitter indie comics community that I have found have been very awesome, very nice, supportive folks, and they genuinely just want to help each other out. Like there's this joke that we all pass around the same $20 bill to back each other's Kickstarters, and it's true, but it's nice to know that we're all just trying to support each other, and rising tide lifts all boats, kind of thing like that.
Absolutely, that's
Yeah.
awesome. It, is your because you're doing this on Twitter, like you mentioned, it's very much so a borderless area, pretty much. Um, are you finding it's a lot of sort of people are everywhere, or is it sort of concentrated in North America?
I feel like most of the Twitter friends that I do have are based in America. Yeah. Some in the UK. I think they also have a pretty big comic scene, and like a little bit here and there. I don't know where a lot of people are from. Actually, I kind of just like, oh, you seem cool. You make cool stuff. I'll follow you, and we'll talk if our time zones align.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Although
Um,
I would like to meet more local people just so I could know more local friends and talk comics with, but I feel like that's whenever the pandemic is over.
yeah, hopefully soon. Hopefully we can be done with lockdowns, and
Yeah.
yeah, and cons can happen again. That would be great if we can do it safely. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Actually, would you ever? Do you think you would put yourself out there in a con? Safety permitted, of course.
Yeah. I actually like if the world didn't collapse all of a sudden, I would have ideally liked con last year. But obviously things didn't go as planned. I would love to try tabling in the future at like Fan Expo or Comic Con or TCAF. I actually used to love going to Comic Cons doing cosplay. So
Oh,
yeah,
right
but
on.
yeah, I might have to scale that back a little bit if I want to show up and network. I'm sure people don't want me to look like a ghost being like, hey, please buy my comics.
Well, you know what? I either way, I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun doing it. Um,
For sure.
Now, when it comes to you as a reader, like we talked about Batwoman, and you've got her right on your wall behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it that sort of you're into reading? Like, what do you enjoy?
That's a good question. Mostly I've been reading, I mean, I enjoy strong female leads. That's just kind of my thing. So I've been reading what have I been reading? A lot of indie stuff, to be honest. I started with superheroes, but at one point I think I just read so many superheroes, I kind of burnt out a little bit. So then I took a couple of years to break off. Um, some series that I've been really enjoying. I love Isola from Image Comics. I think that's from Brendan Fletcher and Carl Kerschel. I don't know how to pronounce their names, but
It'll
yeah.
be on the screen. No worries.
Yes, lovely. But yeah, I love that comic. It's been on hiatus for a little bit, but I'm
Oh,
hoping it comes back. And yeah, I've been reading a lot of honestly Kickstarter stuff that my friends have been making because I want to read their stuff. I want to support them.
perfect.
Uh,
Well, yeah.
yeah, and I don't know. I've been reading kind of genre-wise all over the place, to be honest. I feel like I don't. If it's a cool story, if the art is good, if the writing is good, I'll probably be interested and pick it up.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, it sounds like very much so, as you mentioned earlier, your style currently, your genre, would be post-apocalyptic, futuristic sci-fi. Although with the Western, obviously we're sort of tiering. Um,
Yeah.
are you particular to sci-fi for a style, or are you just that's what you've done and you want to sort of explore?
I feel like the style of stories I like to create are very much in the vein of sci-fi and fantasy. It's mostly sci-fi for now because I can really only focus on one thing at a time. But I would love to do a fantasy comic in the future. I have some plans. Hopefully, they will come to fruition someday. And I think it's nice with the anthologies because they're relatively short, so I can play around with other genres without like having that huge commitment if I don't do well in it. So like you, that's a horror comic. I don't usually do horror comics, but it was sad horror, and I can do kind of sad, moody stories. So that was a nice segue into the realm of horror.
Perfect. Well, I'm
Yeah.
so glad to hear that uh, you're able to basically one create your own work and have a well defined voice, and then through collaborations you're tackling different styles and genres.
Hmm.
I definitely look forward to seeing what you come up with within the realm of fantasy. Um, yeah, that'd be really cool and exciting.
Thank you. I like. I feel like my shtick online is that I like to draw sword girls, and I would love to make like just like a bombastic comic with like a bunch of sword girls and knights and warriors. But that is whenever I have the time,
I
sometime in the future.
I was gonna say, yeah, you've got a lot of work on your plate right now. Let's tackle one or two and maybe throw that on the pile next.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good for you, Fel. That's amazing.
Well, thank you.
So truth be told, I believe we've kind of gone through all of my questions. Um, I do always like to ask as sort of a summary question at the end of an interview. Um, One, is there anything that you want fans to know that we haven't covered?
Uh, that's a good question. I don't know. Whenever, if I ever have the opportunity to speak to fans, I just want to say thank you for supporting my work. It's crazy to think that I even have fans that aren't my immediate family and my five friends. So it's nice. Like I feel like I wouldn't be here if people didn't, support my work, if they didn't believe me, if they didn't back the Kickstarter or like retweet all the random stuff I say on Twitter. So I honestly feel like I owe a lot of my peers, my friends, and supporters everything that's happened so far. It's humbling and it's overwhelming, and I'm very grateful to them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That is so nice. Um,
That
yeah.
includes you, Conrad. Thanks for having
Well,
me on your show.
thank you. Thank you very much. Absolutely, Fell Hound. Thank you very much for coming on. Again, folks out there in YouTube land, all of Fell Hound's social media will be on screen. Check them out or check her out on Twitter, on Instagram, on their Gumroad site as well as their own site. Um, and we will have a ton of links down below so people can get a hold of you. And
Oh.
yeah,
I
thanks so much for coming on and talking comics.
don't know. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I feel like I never really get the opportunity to talk in person about my stuff, so this was really cool.
Well, I'm glad you shared with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.